Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Transplant Talks. I'm Rachel Davis, psychiatrist, living liver donor, and mentor for the American Transplant Foundation. I'm here with my co-host, Anastasia Henry, executive director of the American Transplant Foundation. And our guest today is Emma Lillybridge. Emma received a liver transplant in October of 2023 for alcohol-related liver disease. And Emma is a very vocal supporter for sobriety and a very, very loud advocate about alcohol use disorder and its prevalence. Thank you, Emma, and
Thank you.
welcome. So let's start out with, why don't you just tell us how your transplant journey began?
My transplant journey was entirely unexpected. I went into the emergency room in September of 2023. I had had some symptoms of liver disease, but I didn't know a lot about it. So around May of 2023, I had started getting slightly jaundice and it would kind of come and go. And then I started having problems with swelling and I was confused and tired a lot. And I didn't know what any of that meant. I figured I was overworked. I was working 2 jobs at the time and drinking way too much. I lived alone and was very reliant on just drinking liquor kind of morning to PM. It just, I fell into a habit with COVID and this was the habits I developed. So I wasn't shocked when I was diagnosed with liver disease when I was in the hospital, but it wasn't something I was suspecting going into the emergency room. I thought that I had really bad pneumonia and potentially something wrong with my liver. Came to find out I had sepsis. I was completely septic. My liver was stage 4 decompensated cirrhosis. I had hepatopulmonary syndrome and my kidneys were failing. So it was a lot more than I thought. By far. I never left the hospital after I went in. Within about 3 days of being admitted was when I was told the only chance I had of survival was a transplant. And I had only started getting sober in August of 2023. So I had less than 2 months of sobriety when I had my transplant. I was very fortunate to be at a compassionate hospital, and I was very fortunate that I went into the emergency room of a transplant hospital. Not intentionally at all. I live by Tampa General Hospital, and that's where I went. They aren't known yet for breaking the 6-month rule of sobriety, but they took a chance on me because I had documented proof that I was really working at getting sober. I was aware of my problem, and they wanted to save my life. So they did. So yeah, I spent 5 weeks in the hospital. I had to have 14 thoracentesis done to have my lung drained.
Those things they said that weren't nice. Now I've got a chance.
I never would like to have one of those again. But yeah, I was listed on the 10th of October last year, and I got my transplant on October 17th with a MELD score of 28. So, which isn't that bad. Considering some people had it much worse, but yeah.
That weren't nice. Now I've got a chance.
I was very lucky.
Happy first transplantiversary.
You.
It's literally your second birthday, and
Yeah.
anybody who is watching this episode of Transplant Talks on YouTube, you can just see how radiant you look. You look unbelievable. You're only, what, 31 now?
31.
31. Emma, you look like you're 21. With your permission, before we started recording, we did ask, if anything, if we ask you too much, and please let me know. And we're going to ask you some tough questions. But I think for our listeners, it's really important to be completely transparent, right?
Absolutely.
Can you talk about, at your comfort level, can you talk about your relationship with alcohol?
Yeah,
Growing up?
absolutely. Absolutely. So I started working in the restaurant industry when I was 17. And I think that that was really my gateway into drinking a lot because it's so common when you work in restaurants. Everyone will go out and get drinks after work, buy everyone a round of shots, whatever. So I started drinking pretty young. I started bartending when I was 18 also. So I really was surrounded by alcohol. It was how I made my living. And all the people that I knew drank a lot. And that's what we did for fun. Um, it didn't become something more ominous and unhealthy until the COVID lockdown happened. Once we were locked down, my partner and I really fell into a bad, just spiraling down habit of drinking too much. And he was able to pull himself out of it. I was not. We started doing shots in the morning. We didn't have anything else to do. And that's not an excuse, but also I feel like a lot of people during COVID drank way too much. It was a scary time. And this is just what happened for me. I became addicted. My partner and I split up because of my drinking, ultimately. We're back together now. But we split up because of my drinking. And when I went to go move to live alone, this was in 2021, my drinking just got so much worse. I would wake up, I would go take a shot, chase it with Gatorade, and maintain this all day. I became more and more reclusive. I didn't want to go anywhere. I hid my drinking from everyone. I was still able to maintain a job and then eventually 2 jobs in 2023. Somewhat, I didn't think that anyone really suspected that I was struggling with drinking, but when I look back on it now, it was probably incredibly obvious. But I just kind of tried to tread above water and not give away the fact that I was really struggling, but I would miss, 2 or 3 days of work at a time because I would be so hungover and so ill. And when 2023 came along, kind of more summertime, I was going through periods where I just couldn't get out of bed. I would just throw up in a trash can on the side of my bed, dry heave all day, and fall asleep, wake up, throw up. And I started thinking that this was normal, which is crazy. And I did this for a long time where I was just out of it. But once it became closer to deep into summertime, that's when I started getting confused all the time and I wasn't able to do my jobs anymore. I worked at a hair salon and I was a bar manager and I wasn't able to remember how to do my basic tasks that I had done for years. Like I got very confused just trying to ring someone out at the front desk or pour a beer. And that's when I started realizing things were wrong. And I quit both of my jobs about a month before I went into the hospital. So because I couldn't do anything anymore. I stopped drinking too, but it was because my body wouldn't let me. If I tried to do a shot, I was just going to throw it back up. So I had to go through withdrawals and I had to just stop. And I had gone through withdrawals in this whole period of withdrawing. And I had gone to the hospital a few times and admitted my problem starting in 2020. And it just never stuck. And when my body said I couldn't drink anymore, that's when it stuck. But it was way too late at that point. And I also didn't know that I have alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency, which kind of accelerated things too.
Make those things alright.
But yeah, my drinking was it was all I could do. It was a full-time job.
I'm
Sorry.
curious, when you first started drinking, and especially during COVID, did drinking help you avoid anything like painful emotions or thoughts, or what kind of drove the drinking to begin with?
Fear, I think, and it was such a divisive time that we were arguing with our family members about because some people didn't believe if COVID was real, and we were in a real state of fear because my partner's immunocompromised as well now. Like he was, and now I am too. But and just having nothing to do. We both were really busy people that needed our hands on things, and instead of finding healthy hobbies, we found a bottle of alcohol. And a lot of people in our neighborhood did too. And we kind of had a sense of community doing shots with everyone every day, but it became not fun anymore. Very
If
fast.
if you were to estimate, like, okay, before COVID, let's say I did this many drinks per day or per week, and during COVID, at my worst, I had this many drinks per day or per week. How would you compare?
I think that there's like no comparison. I was a social drinker before and I would go out when my friends invited me out. So I didn't even really have a set amount of drinks per day. We would go out to the bar and, I would have shots with my friends and stuff like that. But once COVID happened, we were killing a big handle of vodka every 2 days. So, and then by the time things really, really picked up for me, I alone was drinking a handle of vodka in 2 to 3 days alone.
And
And that's
people may
my
not know, what is a handle?
1.75 liters,
Liters?
the big bottles. Sorry. Just
That's okay. And I think alcohol affects people differently. So not
Yeah.
everybody likes how alcohol makes them feel. How did alcohol make you feel, again, when you first started?
Much more relaxed. I also used to be a very shy person, and it really got rid of those social inhibitions that I had. I felt like I could talk to people more. I thought I was a more interesting person. Um, I was a braver person, I thought. But and I have a lot of trauma from my past, and it kind of helped keep all of that down, but it just caused other problems instead.
Yeah, I think as a society, we just underestimate the danger of alcohol so greatly. And every year there are over 80,000 people that die
Yeah.
from alcoholism. And I lost my cousin who was my brother, and he was literally the funniest person on earth. Like to this day, Sasha was the funniest person on earth, and he died from liver failure before he was 34.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's unreal to me because there's so many young people that suffer from this. And everyone expects you to drink, and drinking is the normal thing. But then suddenly, when someone is diagnosed with liver disease, no one wants to look at you anymore. And somehow now you have become the social pariah from everyone because you're the person that got sick. But it could be anyone. Anyone can get sick from drinking too much. People that don't even drink heavily their liver can get sick from drinking. But it's just all of a sudden in this society, because it's so normal, it's, what's advertised, it's how you have fun. But once you're the person that got sick from it, you're the person that has a problem, when you never know who else does.
At the American Transplant Foundation, when we educate our community, that heavy drinking is actually more than 7 to 8 drinks per week. And
Mhm.
everybody's like, what? This is heavy drinking? I was like, yes. So
Yeah.
it's not just binge drinking every day. Even if you have 12 drinks per week, right? Just like, oh, I'm just going to have a couple of glasses of wine. This is heavy drinking. And right now, in the state of Colorado, in our country, there is an epidemic of liver disease, and specifically younger folks are affected. So we really thought for a long time, what can we do? And we came up with an idea to do liver refresh challenge. So starting January, we're going to have this incredible 4-week program. You can go on our website and sign up if you're interested in learning more. It is incredible. Like the beauty of liver, it's the only organ in our body that can regenerate. So even if you know what you've done, but if you want to reset, it's amazing that you can regenerate your liver. So I hope, Emma, that you will be an active participant and
Oh, I will.
advocate.
I will.
Liver Refresh Challenge. We will educate you on your amazing liver. We'll give you tips. We'll give you so much. I am kind of preparing for this now. There is a book, I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called The Naked Mind.
I own it.
Yes, right? It's
Yes.
magic. It's magic. When you read, when you understand how much we are such tiny little pieces of this marketing machine, right?
Yeah.
We're brainwashed. We're literally brainwashed when it comes to alcohol. And once you understand how it all works, you're like, I see what's going on, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what does it say that our advertisements that you can't show someone drinking the alcohol? It's just unreal to me. People just don't understand, and it's being shoved down their throat all the time as the only acceptable way to have fun.
It's very true.
Well, I kind of want to know more about what your experience was like as you were getting sick. I mean, that sounds very scary and isolating. And, you mentioned that you kind of became the pariah once you got liver disease. And I'm curious, how did you keep moving forward through that? How did you survive? I mean, it just sounds scary.
It was. It really was. And I worked job positions where I was a very visible person. So when I started turning yellow, I had people gossip about me talk behind my back. I didn't want to look at anyone in the eye. It was a very shameful period of my life, and I hadn't been diagnosed yet. But I knew something was wrong, and it doesn't feel good having people, you know, talking behind your back saying, "Oh, she's really yellow. Her eyes are really yellow." Or even now, a year later, I am not shy about saying, "I don't drink. I don't drink." Not, "No, I'm not drinking tonight. I don't drink." And then people will be like, "You can just have one." And I'm like, "No, I can't." And I'll still get the, ugh, I'm just getting off topic. Sorry. Um, so I lost a lot of friends because they started treating me differently. I lost a lot of friends because they only wanted to hang out in places that I no longer wanted to hang out in. I changed my people, places, and things to get sober. And so I lost a lot of people in that amount of time. I've had plenty of people, you know, talk behind my back in the like industry that I work in, just saying like, "Wow, I can't believe she did that." When it's like, I know full and well, as now a 16-year bartending vet, that many people that bartend are just taking shots behind the bar while they're working, but somehow I got judged because I'm the person that it affected the most. Um, but in going back to the time of my life, it being very scary, the confusion was the scariest part for sure. I would go through periods of just being absolutely lost. My 30th birthday last year, I don't really remember it. I just remember that I was in a hotel. I stayed an extra night because I was celebrating with my friends at Universal Studios. I made everyone leave because I was so sick and so freaked out. I asked everyone to go home, and I had paid for 2 rooms at this resort for us for 3 nights. I stayed for 4 nights alone, sick, terrified to drive home, not because I was drinking, but because I didn't think I could drive. I finally made it home, of course, obviously. But yeah, I didn't know what I was doing anymore. I would be working at my salon and I would forget what I was doing in the middle of doing it, and I would always be running to the bathroom to throw up because I just couldn't keep anything in my body. Most of the time it was just dry heaving, but it was very scary. And I kind of convinced myself that it was normal for a long time, that like, "Oh, you're just a little sick, like it's going to pass. Everyone has their things." And now looking back, I had really, really deluded myself into thinking it was normal.
Well, and I think that's an interesting thing our brains do, right? When we're in a
Mhm.
scary situation, our brain tries to convince us it's
Yeah.
normal so that we can
Yeah,
survive, basically.
survive. Yeah,
Right.
this has
Um,
to be normal.
yeah. Did you have any support system at that time?
So I have a kind of unique situation. I do have a support system. I have my best friend is absolutely wonderful. My partner is absolutely wonderful. Even when we split up, he still was my main support system and just wanted me to get better. Um so I had a lot of support. My best friend always was there for me, knew what was going on. But she didn't want to push me because she was scared of pushing me away, which I understand. And then I had pushed away my siblings for a really, really long time. They ended up being my biggest advocates, and my
I could let
bring a cat into the frame.
Nice. I love it. Cat should join.
Here's, here's Genevieve.
Perfect.
She
Hi,
does
Genevieve.
not drink alcohol. Uh, but yeah, I did have a lot of support from my siblings. My dad unfortunately was my best friend, and he passed away 6 years ago. That was a lot of the catalyst to my drinking too, since COVID was very shortly after my dad passed away. That was my confidant, my closest person in my life. And he ultimately actually passed away from liver failure from cancer, though it wasn't anything drinking related. And my other support system should have been my mother, but my mother is a big source of my shame around drinking. And she ultimately got banned from the hospital that I was in during my transplant because she told me I deserved to die for drinking.
Oh,
So
wow.
I went through all of that
Oh,
during my
wow.
transplant, and it's been fun. But I have wonderful support from my siblings and from my friends. So I'm very lucky in that. And my aunts and uncles, just all of them.
Emma,
Yeah.
I remember a year ago, we got your application. You wanted to serve as American Transplant Foundation mentor, just like
Yeah.
Rachel, just like myself. And what I remember is that this super cheerful application came in and you said, "Hey, I just got a liver transplant a month ago." I was like, I want to save lives. I want to be an advocate, right? Like I want to be that
Yeah.
loud voice, like, hey, people, I'm here. Anybody struggles, like talk to me, right? We're gonna get
Yeah.
through it together. And I, oh my gosh. Okay,
You might
what are we
need
gonna
more
do?
tape.
I literally like I don't even know where I got my tape. Okay, I'm so sorry, you guys. This is
That's
so
okay.
annoying. I'm
It's
so
okay.
sorry.
It's
One
okay.
second. 1 second. Okay, keep chatting. I'll be right back.
Okay.
But yeah, when I applied to be a mentor last year, it was a month out of me being in the hospital. It might have been less than a month. And when I first got out of the hospital, I was lucky enough to have a million caretakers. My best friend's mom just adopted me, just completely. So I went home to her house first, and then I stayed with my brother, one of my brothers, the other part of my recovery. But she was just like, "I'm your mom now. Come stay with me." And I did. And as soon as I got back home, the first thing I wanted to do was I didn't really have any energy because I just had a liver transplant, but all I wanted to do with the little bit of energy I had was to help other people. Because if I'm going to get to live through all of this and be given a second chance when I've only been sober for 2 months, and I'm going to survive hepatopulmonary syndrome, and my liver just, it had like 17% function at the time of my transplant.
Wow.
I have to do something positive for other people. I've spent so much of my life not doing anything, really, except for living, like surviving. But no, I was ready to do something different. So I did. I applied at the American Liver Foundation, the Transplant Foundation, UNOS, the Red Cross, like loaded myself up. So
Well, one of the things I see, I'm a psychiatrist. One of the things I see in my patients is that people who are able to direct energy into helping others often do the best in terms of like
yeah.
thriving and enjoying life. And it sounds like that's you, like you're
Oh
that
yeah.
type of person. That's how you were going to make it through this.
Yeah. And it's what got me through all of it, because it was an immense struggle. My entire life was uprooted. So, but directing my energy into this and educating myself about liver disease, about educating myself how I can really help people that are trying to get sober without it being in a way that is shaming or, making them feel alone. That's what I really wanted to put my energy into. So I did.
And I don't know if we need to re-record everything. I think it was hilarious
I
how
think
my
it's funny.
face.
I think we should
Yeah.
just leave it.
Yeah.
I think it's funny.
Okay, perfect. That's how we roll at the American Transplant Foundation. We literally like we are great stewards of your dollars. So we kind of like do it yourself, everything, right? And
Yes.
sometimes we have little snafus, but that's okay. We keep
Yeah, no, I
rolling.
like it.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So talking about wanting to help others, I'm curious, earlier in your life, like before the transplant, did that show up in other ways too, like in your desire to help people?
Yes, I've always wanted to help people. I've always been like have a really big heart to the point that it's almost been a detriment to me. I've had to be more careful as an adult because as a young, like as a kid and as a teenager, it often burned me wanting to help people a lot. I channeled a lot of my energy into helping animals growing up. I was a volunteer at Big Cat Rescue in Florida. I personally have 8 cats. It's between me and my partner. Like I only have 5 that are mine, but I also have a dog and a snake, and I take care of like a feral colony of cats. So I love helping. It's what makes me feel more full, and I feel like it's the selfless thing to do, I guess. If I'm not going to be able to do something that's huge and making a massive difference in the world, I at least want to do it in little ways, because a lot of little things can make a big thing.
Well, I think we're on the same wavelength here. So I have 4 dogs, a cat, and 3
Yes.
birds. And I relate to what you're saying about getting burned from wanting to help people. And the thing about animals is you can't love them too much, right?
No, you
You
can't.
can't pet
You
them too
can't.
much. You can't throw the ball for them too much. Like they're never going to tell you to
No, just
stop
snuggle
loving
me
them.
more,
So
Mom. It's fine.
yeah.
100%.
Oh, after 20 years of my nonprofit career, I'm still like, I want to help people. I want to help people. We'll see. We'll see if I'll ever feel differently, right? I was like, okay. Oh my goodness. Yes. Well, my heart just like went like so small and just so stressed out when you told me about what your mom said to you in the hospital. And I can only imagine what you've been through growing up as a child. And I want to give you a huge hug. And I would say,
Virtual
"You-
hug.
Emma, you're a miracle. You grew up, you could have turned like into this really mean machine, right? And here you are, absolutely beautiful, absolutely full of life, embracing animals, embracing humans, saying, let's, it's okay. Like we can get through it, even if
Yep.
you feel like so abandoned at times and you feel like there is no way out. And like there is a way forward. What would you say to people that they feel like they struggle, they lost their struggle with alcohol? They think that there is no way, this is too painful to face reality and life without alcohol. What would you tell them?
It's so hard because when you're at that point, I didn't know where to turn either. I didn't know what to do anymore. The only thing I can say is find someone that you can tell, just anyone, even if it's reaching out to a help hotline, find a human that you can tell I am struggling with this. The first glimpse of humanity I really had with my alcoholism, I'll never forget. It was a nurse at a different hospital in my area, and I had gone in going through withdrawals. And I was so scared of being judged. It was my first time telling a medical professional, I have a problem with alcohol. I need help. And she pulled out her phone and pulled out a meetings app and showed me the app and said, I've been sober for 17 years.
Wow.
And it stuck with me forever. I went back to drinking, but it stuck with me forever because I finally said to someone, this is happening to me. And they said, this happened to me too. And seeing someone else that they had made something of their life afterwards, that meant a lot to me. But in that moment of feeling so alone, admitting that something is wrong and someone else can carry it with you, at least to me, it was a weight off of my shoulders. And I was able to, it's not that it made the pain go away, but I didn't feel like I was sitting in it alone anymore. It relieved me of some of my own personal responsibility almost. Like I'm telling this person and now I'm free of at least the secret. Once I was free from it being such a secret, at least to someone, I felt like I could start to work through the pain that I had. It was kind of like a fountain opened.
I want to ask you a question that might be, we don't talk about it in the transplant community, but so many patients that come to us and they know that their liver disease is a result of alcohol abuse, they struggle. They're like, who I am, like I did it myself, like I don't deserve to get a transplant. What would you tell them?
It's not their fault at all. We live in a world where it's so normal. I'm so sorry about my cats, if you heard that. We live in a society where it's so normal to drink. It's so encouraged at the most important, events of your life. At weddings, they expect you to drink. And some of us are just more predisposed to getting addicted to alcohol. We all have different life experiences, and some of those life experiences can lead to having a lot more trauma and having the coping mechanisms of turning to avoid your problems. And alcohol is a solution, what we think is a solution, because we don't feel those feelings as much anymore. We feel like we're more fun and that, it's not that serious. Um, but it's not your fault. I do struggle with guilt sometimes that I am one of the people that my life was saved when I had struggled with alcohol, that I have a donor who, lost his life and now he lives on inside of me. But it took a while, but I know that I deserve it. And anyone that is struggling with alcohol and has seeked out anyone that's struggling with alcohol, period, but those that are already into talking about transplant, you're doing the work to get better. And even if you weren't doing the work, you're still worthy of life. There's always help out there. So no, people can't blame themselves. Alcohol, are we active participants in falling more into addiction? Yes. Yes, we are. But however long it takes you to find your path out of it, that's you can get there. It's not a death sentence. And you certainly are not less worthy than anyone else because you went through this. If anything, you learned a lot.
Yeah. And it's amazing in all my years in the transplant world, once you receive the gift of life, once you receive a liver, I never heard of a story when somebody just went back to drinking and everything
Yeah,
just right? Is that your experience too? Like you feel
I have not.
such responsibility, like wow, like you said, somebody lives inside you. He's your biggest advocate, right? Maybe
Yeah,
that's your father is watching over you. You have this advocate inside of you. You're like, all right, we gotta do it.
yeah, we're
One day at
we're
a
gonna
time.
do it. Yeah, I don't know anyone, and I've met so many people in the transplant community, so many amazing individuals. I don't know anyone that has been nonchalant about going back to drinking, let alone actually going back to drinking. There are a lot of conversations in support groups like, well, is it okay to have one beer? And it's a very divisive conversation. Um, I don't even know where I was going with that, but it's not no one's casual about it. There is not a single person with alcohol use disorder that got a transplant and is like, great, now I get to go drink some more and get another
Right.
one. No one does that. It's not a thing. You don't go through a transplant and come out of it the same person with the same problems. It's just not humanly possible, I don't think.
You didn't have much time, really any time, to learn new coping strategies. So it's like you got a transplant and then you couldn't drink. So how did you cope at that point when you didn't have what you used to use?
I had a really excellent therapist who followed me after my transplant. She was wonderful. While I was still in the hospital, I had a lot of energy while I was hospitalized before my transplant. I don't know if I was just running on pure adrenaline or what, but I was talking 24/7. And my therapist was trying to utilize all of that energy I had because I was also dealing with a lot of fresh trauma from my mom, to giving me homework assignments. So, kind of by the time I had my transplant, I had learned a bunch of tools that were working for me already to keep myself on track. And that's kind of what continued my stability after my transplant. I was very fortunate to have such a wonderful therapist, that kept me going. And then I kept working my program as well. I used just the Reframe app,
Mhm.
but it's just a scientific approach to alcohol. There's support groups on there. So educational support, you can meet people, talk to people. And I continued doing that too. And those kept me kind of straight and narrow. I never thought about drinking again though. I just was very lucky in that it was kind of like a switch flipped for me. Though when you're done, you're done. It was you're not drinking ever again. You're not going to think about it. Now you have to learn how to live your new life.
Speaking of new life, I want to personally want to know the story. How did you get back together with your partner? And what is Emma post one transplant anniversary, the first transplant anniversary? What are you looking forward to?
I am looking forward to so much. On the topic of my partner and I, he was the first person to come and see me in the hospital.
Mm.
I was talking to him the whole night that I first got admitted, and he was there every day, every single day. And he took care of my animals. He got them in foster care because they needed to go to fosters until I was able to move home. He was it for me. Not it. I mean, I had so many people supporting, but we just fell back in love with each other through that, and we've been back together ever since. So it's been wonderful. A year post-transplant, I am closer to my family than ever. I had the fortune of getting to live with my oldest brother, and my siblings are much older than me. They're from my dad's first marriage, so I've never gotten to live with them. So I got to be close to my brother, my sister-in-law, and close to my other brother, my sister. Like, I have just been so lucky that they just accepted me with such open arms after I was missing from their lives for a really long time because I was drinking and then just other, family things that happen. I don't know. I mean, I have a ton of hobbies now that I didn't have before. I really like crocheting and embroidery and going outside. I love camping. I am super close to one of my mentees from the American Transplant Foundation, and I'm actually going to visit her in Oklahoma in December.
That's amazing.
Yep. Yeah.
This makes me so happy. And it happens so often. Like people tell us, okay, I got matched with Minty. And then before you know it, they're best friends. They're like,
Yeah.
this is like my lost sister or something, right?
No, that's literally it. Like, her name is Crystal. She is my long lost sister. Like, it was just like that. We just clicked, and I love being able to help her. And I always am like, please just tell me if I need to go back into more like mentor mode. Like, if you need me to send you resources, if you need me to try to do this, just tell me. And she was like, I
Oh,
needed a friend that got it.
Yeah.
And you've become my best friend who gets it. So I've just been, I keep saying I've been so lucky. I've been so lucky.
I'm amazed, like looking back just 1 year, how have you turned your life? You just completely re-engineered, reinvented, right? Emma is living her best life, and all these new family members, new, like it's literally like this crazy new beginning. I love this.
Yeah, my life is so full now that I can't even imagine. My life was so full of work last year. I scheduled out every minute of the day with time to drink in between. That was it. But there was nothing that really made my heart feel like full. And now I don't do anything that doesn't make my heart feel full. I won't do it. I'm not going to waste my time. I mean, I obviously am going to do the menial work tasks that I have to do and stuff like that. But if I don't feel happy with it in my soul, I'm not going to do it anymore. I love being around my family. I love being around my pets. I love doing the things that I love with the people I love. And that's what my life consists of now. And hopefully that I'm helping other people and touching their lives in the process. That's all I want. So, and it's so different than last year, which was just terrible. The last few years.
You are so positive and so just like resilient. Is there anything that's been really hard
Yes.
that's really challenged you? Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, absolutely. I am positive because I try to not show like how hard things are. But it's been a massive struggle. I felt like I lost my identity in a major way, not necessarily because of transplant, but I had lost my way in a major way leading up to transplant, and I didn't really know myself anymore. And then factoring in my transplant and my mom leaving my life, even though it was by my choice, it was massive. It's not like any child ever like lightly makes the decision to remove a parent from their life, especially when I had already lost my father to cancer. So I felt very rejected. Um, I felt a lot of guilt about my mother, like I should be doing something differently when it was 30 years of abuse leading up to that one moment. I just finally put my foot down. And then the struggles of just having a transplant alone are massive. I have had a relatively easy path. I never went through any rejection spells. It was like they put my donor Andrew's liver inside of me and it just started working, is what the doctor said. I was discharged 4 days after my transplant. They were just like, "You're done.
Yeah.
She's fine." I dealt with allergies to some of my medications immediately after transplant. That was a struggle because it took a long time to figure out that I was allergic to Bactrim. That wasn't fun. Um, and I developed kind of other problems after my transplant. I was diagnosed with a heart condition, diagnosed with fibromyalgia. I struggle with my energy and keeping up with work still, but the emotional toll that transplant takes, it's hard to explain to other people. I'm close with my donor's family and I feel a lot of guilt. They would never want me to feel guilt, but I feel a lot of guilt. Um, I feel a lot of guilt that my donor was 20 and that such a young boy lost his life. And I know that it's not my fault that he lost his life, but I get to survive because he passed away. And that's hard to live with. Um, I feel a lot of guilt about the pain I caused other people in the years leading up to my transplant from my addiction. I never intentionally hurt anyone, but I'm sure I did hurt people in the process. I know I hurt my family by not being close to them, and I'm going to be making up for that for the rest of my life. It feels like, not that they're making me feel that I should make up for it the rest of my life, but I feel like I should. Um, there's a lot of uncertainty around having a transplant. I mean, you have to look at everything with the most optimism and positivity that you can. Otherwise, it can be pretty overwhelming. So I try to look at what I can do instead of looking at what I can't do. Um, but yeah, lots of therapy. A lot of therapy, a lot of talking about my feelings and talking to Matt, my partner, about my feelings and him not understanding, but being like, "Yeah, I'm here for you." But yeah, I think the hardest thing I dealt with was the emotions post-transplant of getting adjusted to everything and then the kind of refinding myself and who I was going to be now. So that was really a struggle. And I'm still not really done yet. I'm still kind of figuring out who I am a year later, but it's okay. The journey isn't as scary anymore as it was. Because a year ago, I had no idea what was going to happen to me. I was financially wiped out. All my savings were gone. I didn't even have health insurance when I went into the hospital. So it was insurmountable for me. My middle brother, Tyler, had to help me financially for months. I had to start from zero. I had to start from scratch. And I did. And it's okay now. Like I'm not financially recovered by any means, but I can pay my mortgage, and I had to buy a new car in August because a tree dropped on mine from a hurricane. Thanks,
Mm.
Florida. But yeah, it's just been a massive adjustment, and trying to have the best mindset possible. Otherwise, it's pretty daunting.
Transplant is the ultimate reset. I do want to give a shout out to Tampa General Hospital and their team that they took a chance on you, and what a incredible decision it was, and everything went so well.
hmm Absolutely. Yeah, no, my doctors, my team, they have all been incredible. And what's so crazy is the conversation, like when I try to explain to people, Tampa General, there wasn't even a conversation of if they were going to save my life or not. Like once we had the conversation about, my sobriety, we just moved forward with transplant. They were just, we don't believe in all of that because you don't have 6 months sober, that you don't deserve a transplant. We don't do that. And I even had one of my doctors was like, "You are not going to feel shame about this. You're a strong person. You deserve to live, period." And that was really it. There was never any conversation again other than, making sure that I was going to attend my therapy post-transplant. But they just made it not even something that I needed to question if I deserved to live or not. It was, "No, we're saving your life unless you don't want us to."
I was just
I'm
thinking as you were talking about all the challenging things over the last year, which is a lot, uh, that pain is not necessarily a good thing. In fact, it's usually not, but we all get to choose what we do with our pain. And you've made choices that are moving you forward. And
Yeah.
that really, kudos to you.
Thank you. I wanted to put all of this energy into something healthy instead of I've always had this much energy, but I haven't put it into the right things.
Yeah.
So being able to direct it into something and not hide from myself as much as I always have with alcohol, it's given me a new purpose and a new path. And I'm very happy with it.
And sometimes it just takes that one person. And I feel, my cousin, he didn't have that one person. He didn't have that somebody believed in him. Everybody shamed him. Everybody's like, just get over it. Like, stop drinking. This is enough. You're an embarrassment. We have to take you to these rehab facilities all the time. Stop it. And it made things worse for him. And
Yeah.
I was living in the States. He was living overseas. Like, I didn't even know how bad things were. And all it takes is just that 1% that's like, hey, we're gonna get over this, right?
Yeah.
And transplant was not even an option for him. So liver transplant, and it's so beautiful that there are new procedures, there are more liver transplants than ever. You can be a living donor to donate a liver, and your liver will regenerate itself. So it's a beautiful thing. And you are a beautiful thing. We are so happy to get to know you, Emma. And thank you for being a mentor with the American Transplant Foundation. And
Thank you for having me. It's really,
yes, we're so excited to work with you in the future.
thank you.
Yes, and thank you for your vulnerability and your candidness. And is there anything else you'd like to share with our viewers and listeners?
I can't really think of anything other than just like my ultimate takeaway that I learned from transplant is to talk to people. Just be open about any struggles that you're having. Whoever that person is that you need to open up to, that's going to get you the help that you need or take that weight off your shoulders, do it. It might be the scariest thing that you've done in your entire life, but do it because it might be the thing that saves your life ultimately. That's really like what I want people to understand that struggle with alcohol. Just talk. Someone's going to listen and someone's going to care. And maybe you'll find someone like me who really is going to go to bat for you and really, really try to help you in whatever way you need, whatever that is. If it's rehab, you need a friend, you need someone to sit on the phone with you in silence. Whatever it is, someone's going to help. don't give up. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emma. This was powerful.
So glad to help.